If you're enjoying Gems with Shom, follow the show. We're just getting started. Welcome to Gems with Shom, a show about beat digging, records, and other things. Today, I'm joined by legendary DJ and producer Supreme LaRock. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Greetings. I'm glad to be here. I want to say that you've had some great people on the show, so I'm honored to be in that company. And also want to apologize that you've been at me for a minute and it took a while, but we're here. I didn't want you to think I was fronting on you or nothing. It was just during the holiday season and, flooding in my area and a lot going on.
Oh, I appreciate your time. And, when I first thought of the idea of doing this show, you're one of the first names I wrote down for a lot of reasons. So I'm glad to have you on it.
Thank you.
All right. You have been successful for many years and in many ways. I think in this community of beat digging, you're one of the giants of this game. You're one of the legends. So I knew we'd have a good conversation. You're famously from Seattle, Washington. How did you get into the world of beat digging?
I'm into beat digging. Well, before beat digging, I was always into just records, period.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a break was. I didn't know anything about beats. I just basically buy songs that I like, right? As a little kid, you hear a song on the radio. Oh, I want that. You buy it. And trying to remember, I think the first breaks I heard was Wild Style when the movie Wild Style came out, and watching Flash cut up in the kitchen and listening to the beats. That was kind of my first inkling into breaks.
We talking around 1980?
Slightly after that. I think it was 83. Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I was buying rap prior. I was buying Soul Sonic Force and records like that. What was the one? Blowfly. My friend's older brother played Blowfly, and I laughed so hard, and I had to have that record. So, I was buying rap and disco and stuff like that.
Okay. What gave you the idea to start collecting records?
Well, I never really thought of myself as a record collector. I just realized one day when I still lived at home with my parents and I came home after school, I couldn't walk in my room because it was full of records. And I realized I kind of got a lot of records.
Yeah, you got a lot of records, brother. Now, you're describing an era in the early 80s where, like you said, the term beat digging wasn't really around.
Right.
The world of hip hop is just kind of starting. I mean, it's at the early phases.
Right.
You're observing that. What are you seeing around you and where are you seeing it?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to travel to New York City, like you said, around 80. And I witnessed park jams. And that blew my mind as a little kid. And I was like, I want to do this. Mainly, it was the dancing. I've always been intrigued by dancing. I loved Soul Train as a kid. I loved all these dance shows that used to come on. And so when I saw b-boying, I wanted to learn that. I was like, I got to do that. So that's really what got me into hip hop. And like you said, it wasn't too much longer after it was started. I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time and witness it.
On this podcast, we take it to another level, right? What did you see? And you must have been quite young at the time. So what feeling did you have?
Yeah, I was 13. So I went on, it was summertime, and it was like some neighbors we had were going on this tour. Basically, they were driving cross country. And I don't know, I asked if I could go with them. I said, hey, can I go? And I think my parents wanted to pawn me off for the summer. You know what I mean? So I went with this family, our neighbors, our friends, and we drove cross country. We ended up on the East Coast because they had family out there. So we stayed out there for like a week. And then every night at, you know, dusk, everybody started coming outside. The neighborhood came alive and it was a big party every night.
That story, if that happened today, that would be like the craziest shit ever. Like you're going with your neighbor's family, and it seemed like it wasn't even all planned. What borough are we talking? Queens, Brooklyn?
You know, I don't know. I know we were in Manhattan. I know that much. I don't
Okay.
know because I'm a kid and I'm not paying attention. I'm just in this van with this family and going where we go, you know?
That's so awesome. Also says something about you. A 13-year-old kid could have caught on to many things that you saw on that trip. You caught on to music and hip hop.
Right. And also on that note, thinking back of like growing up, I remember being that age and even, like through high school, how all my friends would want to party and do all this stuff on the weekends. And I said, I'll catch you guys later. I'm going to the record store. So I remember every Saturday morning we had this all day bus pass for 50 cents and you could ride the bus all day all across the city. So I would save my lunch money all week long and then go record shopping on Saturday morning. But I always remember ditching my friends to do so because nobody wanted to go with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it led to this whole life,
Right,
music and DJing and collecting. That's so cool. I mean, to hear these early memories, it's unique. It's unique because, firstly, it's quite wild what you just described. And it's from a specific perspective. You're from Seattle. It's a certain time in music history that's super interesting to hear.
right.
So, from that point, you're young, you've been to New York, you caught the record collecting bug, and you're getting more deep into music. At what point did you decide to start DJing?
That was 83 for sure. I remember the year because actually I was actually DJing before that. But I wasn't cutting breaks. I was just playing records. And I had two turntables, I had a mixer because again I had a friend. It might have been the guy that played me Blowfly. My friend's older brother, he had a set of turntables and a mixer. So I was like, oh, I want to get that. And the funny thing, like I bought the mixer at Radio Shack, like the $25 joint, cheapest one they had. And I just went in our house and I looked around. Whatever two turntables I found is what I had. I plugged them up and that's what I used. They weren't for DJing, but I don't know that. And so I was DJing in that manner. But in 83, Treacherous 3 came to town and I went to see them. When I went to see them, Easy Lee did a routine cutting doubles, behind the back and all that. And I lost my mind. And that's when I decided I want to do that. Kind of like the first time I saw B-Boy. When I saw that style of DJing, it's like, oh, I want to learn that.
That's so dope. That's so dope. How did you know what to do? How did you know how to set up turntables? This is an
Right.
era where information wasn't so easily accessible.
Right. No internet, no YouTube University, none of that. I didn't even have anybody to show me or to ask. I guess I could have asked my friend's older brother, but it seemed like he just was never around. And everything I did was self-taught. So when I plugged my turntables in, I didn't know, but I plugged them in wrong. I plugged them in backwards. So like right was left and left was right, which nowadays is hamster style. And a lot of DJs actually play that way. And I don't know everyone's story of why they do it, but I know why I do it because I didn't know what I was doing. That's how I taught myself.
It shows something about you. You're gravitating towards what you like and you're just trying stuff out as a kid.
Right.
So what happened next?
Well, I was just DJing in my bedroom. I'd come home and scratch from, 3 o'clock to bedtime every night. I'm sure I drove my parents nuts. And I did that for like years, probably for like 3 years straight. And then I never told anybody I DJ. I didn't really think of myself as a DJ. It's just something I did for fun. But this nightclub, apparently their DJ got real sick and he couldn't play that night. And they were scrambling to find somebody. Somebody that worked there knew me and they called me, "Hey, do you want to come DJ tonight?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna get paid to come do this? Yeah, I'll be there." And I wasn't even old enough to be in the club. But the way our laws work here, you can work in the club. I couldn't be there as a patron, but I
Okay.
could come in at say I start at 9, I could come in right at 9 and then leave as soon as I'm done. So I did that and I was so excited. And I remember I brought man, I don't know how many records I brought, but I remember cutting up Bob James Mardi Gras because I was like, oh, the crowd's gonna go nuts. They're gonna lose their mind. Well, nobody danced, and I got dirty looks, and people were so confused. And I'm like, oh, I'm bombing. It's like a comedian telling bad jokes. I'm just like, this is not gonna work. They didn't know what I was doing. They didn't ask me to come back. And I learned that night, oh, I better learn how to really DJ to rock a party. It's not just about this scratch or cutting these records up.
I mean, I like how you kind of shared your feeling and your experience. That sounds like a crazy scenario for a young person.
Right.
So you had this first gig, right? When did you start becoming a, let's say, a working DJ more consistently?
I think that gig I did was like 86, that one. And I didn't really play out and start working consistently till about 90, 91.
Okay.
And then I got on it. Yeah, I got on at a club and it was pretty dead. Nobody was coming through. And then I remember I announced this is gonna be my last night doing this party here. And like the whole city came out.
Okay.
Like, because they heard it was the last one. So like everybody came out. They loved it. And they said, "Oh, this is great. You can't quit doing this." So I didn't quit. And I think I went for close to 10 years straight, every weekend, sold out crowd. It was great. And the way it stopped is somebody got shot at another club like 2 blocks away. And so the city, I don't know why, they decided to close down all the clubs for like a month and then let them open back up again. And then after that, it just never happened. It killed the night.
Let's go back to that part when you had this 10-year run. So it seems like your first wave of success. You're seeing the people come, you're seeing the energy from the crowd. What was that feeling for you as a young person?
It was great. It was the best of times. I mean, I'm playing the music I like and that I love. I'm getting a reaction, and I mean, it was great. People, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my horn, but people still talk about that night to this day around these parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to hear that. You have a very distinct style, and the fact that you found your people and you influenced them, they influence you. You're in that groove. That sounds like an excellent place to be as a person starting to DJ.
Yeah, it was just a good vibe, man. And the '90s was a great time for hip hop.
Really good time. Now, skipping ahead in your life and your career, you started the label Conception Records. Tell me about the origins of this idea.
Okay, so when Main Source's album came out, and they were playing the Sister Nancy record. Remember they were cutting up the Sister Nancy record? Well,
Yes.
I don't even remember how I knew it, but I knew that record, but I didn't have it, and I wanted to find it. And there was this guy around town that was a reggae DJ, and I saw him. I was just walking down the street, and he was walking down the street. I just seen him, So I approached him. I said, "Hey, can I ask you something? I'm looking for this record. I thought you might have it." He said, "Wow, I'm looking for that record too." And we said, I don't know, we just started talking. We exchanged numbers. So he said, "Well, let's hook up and hang out." We just met each other. So I called him up, and he lived like 1 block from me. And I walked over there, and he had an amazing record collection. We both had about the same amount of records, but different records. So we were putting each other up on records. Then I told him, oh, I asked, did he make beats, or he was getting into making music. I was already making music at that point. And then he said his friend is starting a label, and let's do something. So we teamed up, we put something out on this label. Now, when we did that song, the group was called the Sharpshooters. The label was Ubiquity from Love and Hate in San Francisco. When we did that, we also completed like 10 more songs. So we had a whole full album done. We took it to them, and they didn't want to do it. I think they were only doing compilations at the time. They weren't doing like group albums. So we have this album done. We're like, well, what are we going to do? And that's when we said, let's just put it out ourselves. And we started our label. That's how that started.
When I say the group Nirvana, what comes up for you?
Conception Records does, because they were the first group from Sub Pop that got a major deal with Geffen and got a boatload of cash. And then Sub Pop was able to offer me a label deal for my label and slide me a little cash. So thank you, Nirvana.
That's so cool to hear, because Seattle, I mean, it's a mid-sized city. It has its music scene, but this major legendary group, unlimited success, to see the connection that it had for you is interesting. And also, I'll point out throughout this story, there's like a consistent thread for you. You're not afraid to just try shit. Like, if you're interested in something, you're trying it. Starting a label at that point in the world was not that easy. Putting out records, not that easy. And the fact that you kind of rolled the ball in the field and made it happen, I think is pretty cool.
Thank you. I don't know if you're aware of my first record on Gemini, The Incredi Crew, which was released in 87, but it was really done in 86. And why, like you just reminded me, because when you bring that up, I think back, I was a kid. I was like 16 years old doing this, making records and releasing them and pressing them up, putting them out. And it was very hard to do. And I don't know, I just look like, dang, I was young doing this.
I think it says a lot about you. I mean, I don't know a lot of 16-year-olds pressing up vinyl. At that time, it was, I would imagine, not so easy. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So I have
mean,
another story before we move forward,
yeah, go ahead.
which I found out during COVID. I don't know if you've heard this one, but a guy was cleaning out his studio because he had nothing to do. So it's during COVID, right? So he's like, let me finally clean out my studio. He's going through all these tape reels, and he finds one with my name on it.
Okay.
So he contacted me. He said, did you leave a tape in this studio? But I didn't remember. Anyways, we hooked up, and I listened to it, and it was all this music I had worked on. And I left the tape there in the studio. When I think back about it, I remember when you used to record, if you didn't pay for your studio time, they kept your tape. So I think I must have not paid for my studio time, and he kept my tape. I don't remember. But what he brought up was he showed me the track sheet from that day in the studio, and Nirvana was in after my session, immediately after my session. And I remember the day, them coming in and me coming out, and I remember helping them bring equipment in, and they were helping me take, my shit out. And then years later, I'm like, oh shit, that was Nirvana.
That's so wild. I love hearing these stories. Now, and I know we went out of order, and by the way, that's totally cool. Tangents are welcome. Let's go back to the conception time. You're recorded, you started this label. You had a mixtape, Walkman rotation. How was putting that project together?
It was great, and I had a friend that worked at Tower, and I told her, "Hey, I'm starting this label, and I'm not really sure what to do or how to move forward." And she said, "Well, you should do a compilation with all the artists you're going to work with because it will introduce everybody to each artist, but mainly it'll introduce the world to your label, and you want them to know your label." And I said, "Okay." So that's how that came about, why I decided to do that. Then I decided I didn't want it to be a boring compilation, just a song and a song and a song. I was like, let's make it a mixtape. Let's have somebody dope put this thing together. And I asked a local guy who's really a good friend of mine, and he was asking like for the world. I was just like, I can't do that yet. I'm not on yet like that. And I had known J Rock, and I called J Rock and I offered him what I could, and he was down with it. And J Rock came through for us and murdered it. And talking to him recently, he thanked me. He said, you realize you're the first person to put me on?" He said, "After that is when Rockers came and got me for sound bombing."
You have an ear. You have an ear and you know this music game. And I feel like that story you told about J Rock is a legend, straight up legend. And in that mixtape and that label, you started a lot of great careers, a lot of great careers. And also, those records are prized around the world now. So you have this kind of cult following. And like I said, it shows something about you.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, Lord Finesse, when I talked to him, he said, "That's not by accident." He said, let's just be clear here. That's not by accident.
Yeah.
But many of my records, like stuff I've done, on independent labels or for other people, a lot of these records, like you said, are coveted and expensive. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, you have a very cultivated ear. You're very talented. It's from these years of listening to all types of music. You know what's good. And it's a certain sound, and people gravitate to that. Let's talk about Jake One, who you worked with very closely on Walkman rotation, became one of the most important producers, many, many hits, great producer. What made you say back in the day, this guy has something?
I was managing a record store probably about 90. I think it was 90, 91. And Jake used to come in. He was a customer. He was a real little kid. I think he was in middle school. And he knew one of the guys that worked there. So one day I come in the shop and I hear like this really dope beat playing. And I said, "Hey, what are you playing?" He said, "Oh, that's that kid that comes in here." And I said, "The little white kid?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Wow." So next time he came in, I, talked to him. And then one day, I believe he ran into me. I was out digging and he was in the record store. I believe we bumped into each other. And I feel like that day we just clicked. It was almost kind of like big brother, little brother. And we just clicked, and we were like inseparable for like the next 5 years after that. I feel like we were together every single day, working on beats, making these mixtapes, looking for records, eating, hanging out.
I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. It's a good combination. And you mentioned amongst the many things, mixtapes. Now, those con man mixtapes were personally very influential on me. Smooth Criminal on Beat Breaks. They were fantastic. I learned a lot through kind of reverse engineering, hearing those, trying to figure out what it is. And that led to this lifelong journey of wanting to learn about breaks. And you guys did a hell of a job. But I never heard much about the story of how that came together. What made you decide to do a mixtape?
Well, I always have done those for myself, not for anybody else to listen to, because I'd find samples, loops, grooves, things I wanted to use. or buy a record I might not fully know. I record bits and pieces. And it was for me while I'm driving around or walking around, I'd listen to those. And I remember a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should put that out." And I said, "Who wants to hear this?" Like, I was like, Hell no, I'm not putting this out." And then Jake would come over and record stuff. I think it might even been, like I said, I was always doing it, but I think it was his idea to do it the way we did it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like he put a lot of that stuff together, and he was just like going through my collection, we're pulling stuff, and we decided to do these tapes. And I'm like, okay, I'll make 100 of them. And I think they sold out like immediately. And I just kept making them and making them and making them. And then people wanted another one and another one and another one. I remember going to Atlanta, like going into Fat Beats, and they didn't know who I was. And I was like, "Oh, I have this mixtape. Can you guys take some from me?" And they're like, "No, we're not really interested." And I said, "I'm going to leave one here." I said, "Just play it in the store and, give it a listen and call me if you want some." And I think it was 30 minutes had gone by and the guy's calling me. And he was like, "We need your mixtapes." And we sold a ton out of there. We started selling a ton everywhere.
It's important that you said that. I think that history is important. That mixtape is critical. And there's a handful within that time, let's say a few years, Khan and Amir, Phil Soulman, many people have been on the show because that's what inspired me to get into this shit. And it wasn't really done before. It shared this music in a really specific way. And it kind of helped lay the foundation for the world of beat digging. And it's underrated when people tell the story of beat digging. It's a lens of listening to music. It's cross genre, it's part hip hop, part soul, part jazz, part library. And those mixtapes are extremely important. And I just wanted to point that out here.
Thank you.
So, what is the connection between Conception Records and Toronto, Canada? There's a number of artists, people I'm friendly with, who were on Conception.
Yeah, it's crazy, pretty crazy. And I'm sure you're aware, I've been coming out to Toronto for years and meeting people and hanging out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the way that came about was through Moss. I guess Moss came to Seattle, I think for his birthday or something, and he went to a baseball game. I think they're playing the Blue Jays, and they came out here for the baseball
Okay.
game. And he was digging. He was in a record store, and Jake was in the store, and Jake noticed what he was buying, what the guy was buying. He's like, "This guy must make beats,
Yeah.
or he's into this stuff." So they just sparked conversation, exchanged numbers, and then that led to everything else, right? Led to the Toronto explosion, basically, because he did produce, and then he was sending us stuff he was working on. I don't know if you recall that he was producing Obi Trice, and they did
I
the
do.
well-known Eight Hole, which I loved, and I wanted Obi. I'm like, I'm signing Obi, and in the midst of talking to them and getting ready to do this, Eminem heard him and scooped him up. But that was an artist that came close to being on Conception. Another artist, we it's so weird when I think about my life, and like you said, connects just the way things fall into place. And I don't know what that is, but uh, we met Dilla really early on before the world caught on. And I wanted him to produce for Conception. And I was talking to him, and he said we were going to do a song together, but he said I have to use his rappers called Slum Village because he was trying to get his group on. I said,
Sure.
"No, I don't know. I don't want them. I just want you." And he wanted his group to be on, and then the money he wanted, I couldn't really swing. And I was like, we just let it go. Now, in hindsight, I wish I would have did it, but But to answer your question, it was basically Jake and Moss made that connection and brought it to me. So when I had the chance to do what I could do, I wanted to, I just wanted to put out great records. And when I heard the grassroots, like these guys are great. This is hip hop. This is what it is. That record is still one of my favorite records to this day in the hip hop genre. I put it top 10 easily against anything.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. First of all, you dropped some serious bombs of knowledge, right? So, I mean, I really appreciate it. I hope our listeners appreciate it as well. Let's point out a few things. You spoke about Moss, right? He's a producer out of Toronto, hardcore beat digger as well, right? Really into this shit. Great guy. I haven't spoken to in a while. Very nice guy. And he worked with Obi Trice. He worked with Sean Price. He put out compilations deep in the game. And I'm glad you explained that connection. I think that's pretty cool to hear. And about the part about Dilla, that is really really mind blowing. As a massive Dilla fan, many people who listen to the show are. I think it's super interesting to hear. About the record you mentioned, Grassroots Passage Through Time. This was a full length album made by a production group out of Toronto, Canada, on Conception Records. That is considered a classic, an underground classic. And that is one of those records that is widely beloved, a cult classic, and very popular internationally. It's very coveted. It's high on the price tag, and I think it's great work you guys did, kind of as a team, as a label, and from a production standpoint. It was great.
Yeah. So also at the time, the company I was using to distribute the album, the guy that was running the company won the lottery and just
Wow.
walked away. He just walked. He just stopped coming in and never came back. And I think it kind of hurt the distribution.
Yeah, that's such a curveball. He doesn't have to work on distributing your records. He's now a millionaire. I guess the music business is a bit of a wild place, but in terms of the quality of music, you guys did great work.
We tried. That was my goal. My goal was just to put out good music. And I think a lot of the records have aged well.
Yeah, aged really well. It aged really well. Yeah, I think things come around over time. What we've just covered in your life is many decades, and I think things go in cycles and things come around. We're in 2026, and vinyl DJing has taken center stage. And someone like you, who's been doing it the whole time, becomes especially important. What are your reflections on that, on this new success and popularity of vinyl DJing?
I think it's great. A funny thing is when Serato and digital DJing came out and was available, a friend of mine was one of the first people to have it. And he's like, your mind's going to be blown. Wait till you see this thing. I went over there. He's like, you got to get over here right now. And I went over there and I looked at it. I said, you got to be kidding me. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, I wasn't interested at all, not one bit. And I said, well, you can do that if you want to. I'm going to keep playing records, which I feel like I was the last guy to get Serato. I honestly feel this way. And the only reason I got it is I was started to travel as a DJ. And then they were charging me extra because I'd have more than 3 bags, or I have 6 crates of records. So they're like, oh, 2 pieces of luggage. That's cool. But we got to charge you for each of those boxes you have. Then they weighed them. Then like it's $50 for overweight for each one. I'm paying like $600 just to get my records to a gig. I remember I was like, the flight was $300. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And so I remember that day. I remember flying home. I didn't even go home. I drove straight to the music store. I said, give me that stupid Serato thing. But I've come to love it, man. I love it. I love technology. I love what you can do with it. It's great. It's super convenient. And now I play on everything, right? I play on CDJs, I play on controllers, but like you said, I never stopped playing vinyl. Never.
Yeah.
What I did stop doing was buying popular club records that I don't personally like because I could play those on Serato, which
Yeah.
led me to stack and save more money to buy the records I do like and beef up my collection in that manner.
I think that's smart. I mean, you found what works for you and you found the kind of silver lining in it. And I think it's good that you said you like technology. I mean, it's a fact of life, it's a fact of music, it's a fact of DJing. And I think it's good to keep progressing yourself while still keeping your ear. Technology is not going to change your taste, right?
Right.
So all that knowledge that you developed through the millions of records you've found and dug through, that's you. The technology is just a medium. Yeah.
Correct. But I think it's great. Everybody playing vinyl. I asked a friend, a younger guy, the other day, like, because he's totally into it. I said, "Well, what excites you? Why? What made you get into vinyl?" All of a sudden, he just said it's new and it's different, and so it makes it exciting, and that's great, and it keeps it alive for everybody. I think it's great. The only thing I don't think is great is the prices of records.
Yeah.
They just go up and up and up and up and up.
They go up. I feel like you got a lot of grails for cheap over over the
Yeah,
years.
that's it. I wouldn't say I was lucky, but I feel like not even to say I started early, but I was on to things fairly early, and I don't know what that was either. I don't know why, as a teenager, when everybody's listening to whatever's hot on the radio, and I'm buying this weird record I've never seen before with this dude that just looks cool as hell on the cover. I'm like, man, look at this thing. This has to be good. And it's like
Yeah.
99 cents because nobody wants it. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. Let me check it out. And then it turns out to be great. And now it's $1,000 record and everybody wants it.
That's true beat digging. That's true beat digging, taking a risk or looking for some kind of clue about the record that made you think to buy it, taking a risk. And the feeling of it being a good record or you finding that breakbeat is magic.
Right.
Right. Well, people like you who did this work in the first place, took those risks, knew how to find records, helped shape the sound of beat digging, of this kind of zone of music. And I think that's really important to note because today's world, I love how young people are getting into vinyl. I see the same thing that you're seeing. Uh, it's not quite the same experience. They're probably not going to go to a record convention or a flea market or get into like Dusty buying these records. It's just not the same world. And that's okay. They don't have to do what we did. But I think that foundation you have is important because it built this scene, it built this culture.
Right. Yeah. I was in the store the other day. There was like some teenager in there, and this one kid was stacking up, just piling it up. And you could tell his friends didn't even want to be there, but they were there to support him. I don't know if he had, his parents' credit card or what. And then one of them said to him, "Do you even have a record player?" And he said, "No." He said, "No," but he was buying. And it's funny, I look at him and they're like buying the Rolling Stones and the like Pink Floyd, a lot of classic rock. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool because that exploration, I mean, we were all once there in some way, right?
Right.
Going backwards. And I like the way that continues. And also, I mean, I'm not as into the latest music as I once was, but there is good music now. And there are young people making great music. That cycle continues.
I agree. I think it almost might be better now than it's ever been. It's just not commercial, right? It's not
Yeah.
popular. You have to find it,
Yeah.
but it is out there. Just people making amazing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's something I want to commend you on. Me personally, I try to always stay modern, even though I like old things. I like vinyl. I like tactile things, but I don't want to stay stuck in the past. I want my experience of older things, older music, older culture to inform the future. I always feel the future's in the past. I don't want to be just reminiscing my whole life. That's just not how I think. You mentioned traveling with crates and records. Let's touch on that because you've traveled the world as a DJ. What has that taught you, starting off in Seattle and then seeing the world as a DJ?
It taught me that there's literally a whole world out there. And so you can go somewhere and you have new experiences. You meet new people. Like when I went to the Middle East, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of scared, you know. I like our media paints a pretty ugly picture of it.
Yeah.
And I went there and they were the nicest people, almost probably better than at home.
Okay.
Super friendly and nothing like I expected at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning, well, you got to get out there and witness things and experience for yourself to see what the world is. And then you learn about their music and certain records that won't work in another country will work in a different country or at home, even state to state. There's regional music that works places that doesn't work someplace else. Then you also realize in every country there was an artist that wanted to be or thought he was James Brown, and he made some funky records, or Jimi Hendrix, or whatever. And they were influenced by all these people, and you discover all these funky breaks and records and music. Like I said, then you realize I don't know anything, I don't have anything, and there's a whole world out here.
Compared to almost everyone, you know everything. I mean, you have that deep knowledge, those deep crates. And I think it's cool that you keep an open mind when seeing the world. I think that's really interesting.
I mean, I tell people I don't know anything. You know, they say, "Oh, you know everything." I don't know anything. It's like, you know how much stuff I learn every day? And I learn from my friends and like people online. Like we all don't know everything and we all don't have everything. Even like there's simple records to me. I'm like, you don't know this? And it might be a guy that's been DJing 30 years and he doesn't know it. But same thing. He might show me something I don't know that's I see every day.
I think that's amazing for you to say. It's very refreshing. The reality is compared to the average person, you know, you know by far, but compared to almost anybody, you know more. But I think it's because you have this mentality. You're always trying to learn. Yeah.
Definitely a student of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that, you know, you've been in many places. I'm glad you mentioned the Middle East. You did some work in Colombia as well. You've been to other places. Name some of the top travel stories that come to mind.
Oh man. I don't know if I have any top travel stories. They're all good. I think anything new is good. It's an experience. It's good for your mental. You know, it's
Hell yeah.
just like I said, it's good to meet people,
Yeah.
just to be
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
I don't know how Toronto is, but I know that I felt around the world the hip hop scene is stronger than in America. They love it. They love break dancing. They love cutting up breaks, right? They love it. And it's still going strong. I feel like a lot of the artists you see like J Rue and some people like that go over there and they never come back because I think they get treated like kings and gods and praised and worshiped, which they should. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they don't get that at home.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Whenever I see this pattern of that era of hip hop being more popular in different parts of the world, different parts of Europe, it reminds me of our favorite jazz artists, right? When they might have been popular or got their first start in the late 50s, early 60s, talking about, let's say, John Coltrane, Eric Dolphy. And then they have another wave of success in France and Sweden and playing these festivals like 10 years later. And it's a similar pattern of culture starting in the US and having this kind of echo in different parts of the world. And it's got, let's just say, an interesting storyline because you see people's careers taking them in different directions.
Right.
For you, I like I said, I love your optimism. I feel like you're on such a high right now with the emphasis on vinyl in the world. You're in a great position to be even more successful in the past. It's funny how careers go. Your next phase could be your most popular ever.
Yeah, I've been told that recently. And you know what the crazy thing is, when I did get Serato, I had a friend of mine and he said, I bet you in about 20 years from now, vinyl is going to be the hot thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember him saying that to me, and it's been about that.
Hell yeah. I mean, for you, it's the most extreme examples. The fact that you kept digging when it was not popular to many people for decades.
Right.
And now you have the deepest crates in the game. You have that ear. You're good with people. You're good at DJing. It's a it's a new wave for you. So I like to see that because you're committed to the sound.
Also, I don't know if you remember when Serato did come out, a lot of people got rid of their collection.
Yeah,
They
a
were
lot.
excited.
I know people who
They
did
were
that.
excited to get rid of their records. And I told them, don't do that. And they didn't listen.
I have a friend. He was a really popular club DJ from being a teenager till like he was maybe 30 years old. So 15 years old, getting serviced all kinds of great records, new and old. But he moved somewhere and his all his records were dominating his parents' basement. I'm talking a ton of records. And he had to get rid of them. He didn't have time to really organize them or put them on eBay. He just sold them to one person for $1,000. And every
There was
time,
a lot of that going on. I know
yeah.
one guy, he took them out to the street and just let the garbage man get them all.
Oh man, that's so painful.
I know.
Yeah, but life happens. Things go in cycles. One day, many people's record collections will go back in the wild. That's
It
just the
will.
cycle of life. It might happen to me. It might happen to you. Time goes on. That's
It
how it
will.
is.
It will definitely happen to us at some point.
It doesn't
You know,
feel
we're
good,
not
man.
on the earth forever. Unfortunately, people die and
Yeah,
things surface.
yeah, yeah,
Like you
yeah,
said, it's just a cycle.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. In my life, there's been times that I've been so attached to certain records, and like I found this at this time, and it cost me X amount of money. I still cherish the record, so don't get me wrong, but I just try to get less possessive about things. Like I just try not to obsess too much. All right. On this next segment of our show, it's called Drop a Gem on Them. It's everyone's favorite segment. It's a word association game. I'm going to name records, people, places, spaces. You tell me what comes to mind. It could be a feeling, experience, personal anecdote, really anything. And tangents are welcome. Lynn Christopher, take me with you.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley.
Yes. Can you explain for our audience why you're bringing up Kiss?
The first record they ever played on. I think they might have been teenagers, and it's not widely publicized. A lot of people still don't know that. But I was a huge Kiss fan. When I was a little kid, they were my favorite group, and they were like superheroes. You know, the way they dress and look, they're like comic book characters,
Yeah.
almost superheroes to a little kid.
Yeah.
So that's what comes to mind first when you bring that record up.
I feel like there's more to the story here.
I mean, I think I'm not sure. I think I used the record first
Yeah.
on the Walkman rotation.
Yes, I could say with all certainty you used it first, right? And I loved it. And it was such a banging breakbeat. It became an extremely popular classic breakbeat record. It's like a grail record. It's been since reissued. It's very popular with even new people getting into beat digging. And you found that and you helped make it big.
What's funny is I had so many copies at one point. I was finding them sealed constantly for like $6. I would leave them there. I'd leave them because I already had 15 copies. I just stopped buying it. I'm like, oh, I should have bought all of.
Oh man, you did a lot with that record. I mean, great ear, great find. I like the way you brought up Kiss played on it. Yeah, they're the backing band. I believe they were part of the production team as well. Gene Simmons doing that, and it's such an important record. It's unbelievably great sound, empty sound. It's a classic breakbeat now that decades have passed, and even the cover work is great. It's all the makings of a grail, and you helped to make it a grail. So I wanted to point that out.
On a side note, I found her and contacted her, and we talked a while back.
Wow,
So, yeah, great lady.
you take it to another level. I mean,
She's still
wh-
around.
what was like? What led you to talk to her? I mean, that's amazing.
I just thought, that's how my brain works. Sometimes I feel like I'm nutty. Like I would just sit there one day, like, oh, I wonder if Lynn Christopher's still alive. And I just started doing all this research, and then found like her Facebook or her website and contacted her, and then told her I DJ and I love her music, and she asked for my number and called me.
That's amazing. I mean, she looks so beautiful on the cover. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like her hair and the music is so
Yeah.
haunting. It's like such a combination. It's so cool that you talked to this person. All right. That was I knew that would be interesting. You shared way more than I thought you were gonna say on that. So I love hearing that. Another classic. The Mighty Riders. Evil Vibrations.
Yes. So I found that record at Amoeba Records in Berkeley in the gospel section. Now, this was years before I was into gospel or bought gospel. I don't know why. I hadn't figured it out yet. In my mind, I'm like, oh, this is corny. These guys are singing about Jesus. I don't want to hear that. So I just would write that off, right? But I remember walking by the gospel section, and I was in the front, and the way it looked so cool. And I picked it up and I held it and I looked at it. I was like, I'm not into gospel records. I put it back and I didn't buy it. I left it. I think it was like $4.99, and I left it there. And then years later, De La ended up using it. Prince Paul used it. Which, talking to them, they had it off a compilation. They didn't even have the original record.
Oh, crazy.
Comp like British compilation or something. But at that point, I'm like, man, that's what that is. So, I put the feelers out and I found one.
Yeah, I'm sure you have it by now. It's super interesting the way you kind of saw it before the day law. And it's good that you're sharing this timeline because I always kind of assumed at that time when this music was coming out that Prince Paul was finding OGs. But I guess it makes sense. I mean, early 90s UK reissues, they might have reissued that and that's where he got it from. It might make sense.
Right. Yeah. I feel like they were ahead of us as well. They do like those master cuts or master groove compilations that were amazing. All the music was good.
Well, let's take this tangent, right? You're right. The UK is very advanced at that time. There was this movement of acid jazz. It's a music I heard as a kid that I thought was cool. And it kind of made me want to learn more about different types of music, right? It just opened my mind a bit. What was your view on acid jazz?
Well, I loved it. That's kind of like what people would call my group the Sharpshooters. But to me, it was just hip hop. It was just hip hop, but Tribe had came out, Guru was doing jazz with Taz, Gangstar, and a lot of hip hop was sampling jazz. So I think it was like a natural marriage between the genres.
I feel like I've heard you at one point talk about the origin of the phrase acid jazz. From your point of view, where did that come from?
It was a label from the UK, but it stuck to when they put this stuff out, it was like jazzy hip hop. People would say, "Oh, that's that acid jazz. That's acid jazz." So it kind of stuck as
Yeah.
to people calling the genre acid jazz. To me, it's just jazzy hip hop,
Yeah,
funky.
I think you're right. I mean, I was incorrectly referring to it as a genre, but it makes sense now that you clarify. And for our audience, we have people of different age ranges listen to this. There's many great groups. Jamiroquai, Brand New Heavies are at the center of that. There's other groups. If you were to start in the world of acid jazz, Jamiroquai, Morning Glory is a great one to start. Slow Burn, it's a banger. All right. Next up, Spacey by Tatsuro Yamashita. What does that bring up for you? Any memories?
Crazy thing, I can usually pick up a record and tell you where I got it, when I got it, and how much it was. That one I couldn't tell you. I think, I'm pretty certain, uh, there was a guy named the Silver Child from Japan, and he came to America, and he happened to stop in Seattle. And I don't know if you're familiar with Japanese culture, but he had to insist that he brought me a gift when he met me. And that was, I believe, that was in there because he gave me a pile of records. I think that was one of them that was in the pile of records.
That's so interesting.
No, amazing record, incredible record.
Yeah, yeah. It's an incredible record. It's one of the first records that made me realize, oh, there's a whole world that I have to learn about Japanese, let's say, music, city pop, jazz, and because of reissues and other things, it's kind of more popular now than it was 10 years ago. And I think it's great. I mean, it's firstly fantastic music, and you might go to a restaurant and it might be playing on the playlist. I think
Right.
that's good. More good music in society is better for everyone, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah. Another record, Thesda, Spaced Out.
Yeah. So back in like Soul Strut days, I don't know if you used to be on Soul Strut.
Yes.
Somebody found stock on this record and they were selling them. I think they were like $60. They were sealed, sealed dead stock. And I bought one copy and I played it and I didn't like it at all. It just didn't do it for me. And I sold it immediately. I sold it like immediately. And then I heard it years later somewhere. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh man, I had that joint. So I had to try to find it again. So I did my homework and I found a store that had a copy, or someone told me we just saw one in this shop. And I called them. They said, "Oh, we literally just sold that like 10 minutes ago. Some guy came in and bought it." I said, "If you ever see it again, call me." Maybe a week passed, and they called me. They say, "You're not gonna believe this. Another one walked in through the door." And I
What
got it.
year we what year we talk? This is an extremely rare record. There's very few copies made. It's private pressing.
This was probably 20 years ago.
Okay. There's a price tag on it now for sure. I mean, it's massively rare. You're one of the few people I've ever heard of having it. So it's crazy.
And I've done that with a few records. Like I got them early on, and they just didn't do it for me at the time, and I got rid of them. Now most of those I've got back, but I'm always like, what was I thinking? How did I not like this record? But your ear changes. I like different stuff all the time. There was a time period I wasn't really listening to jazz. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling jazz. Now I'm all about jazz all of a sudden. I'm just been into it lately and going through my own collection. Like, these records are amazing.
Yeah, I think that's I've gone through a similar pattern with jazz, maybe not listening to it as much as I used to when I was younger. And now I that's mainly what I listen to. And going through my collection, I have tons of shit that I kind of slept on. And and it's fun. It's like you discover these great records that you didn't appreciate as much in different phases of your life.
Right.
About the Thesda record, like I said, it's a legendary record. Anyone listening to this, check out the song holding back. It is unbelievable. It's come up on this show before. No one has it that I know other than Supreme. So I had to bring it up. Next record, Marcus Belgrave, Space Odyssey.
Yes. Something I found for $3.
It's a grail.
I remember going in the store that day, and the clerk showed it to me. He's like, "Oh, we got some stuff that came in." I remember he pulled that out. He was like, "This one's kind of interesting."
Yeah.
And I took it over to the listening station. I'm like, "Yeah, I like this."
Yeah. Yeah. Went on to be sampled. Great, great record. Such a interesting sound and vibe on that. I'm not sure who put it on mixtapes. Maybe you did. Maybe you
I think
did.
I did.
Yeah, yeah. You put it out around the same time as the Def Squad song came out. That's why I thought it's so mind blowing. Like the break tapes were getting ahead of where hip hop was
Right.
around that time. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Next record, Phil Rainland, Vibes from the Tribe.
Another record I got for about $3, and that was from a dealer. I remember that was at a record show, and a dealer had it, and he said, "Oh, this look." He said, "This looks like something you might be into." And I remember as I just bought it. I remember, oh, $3, I'll just buy it. It was one of them gamble records, and I won.
Yeah, you won. Goes for a little bit more than $3 at this time.
I think it went for 3,500 last week. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, it's extremely high quality music, great cover work, all the markings of that would make a grail, right? It's not just the good music; it's all the things around it. It's rare. It's a hell of a
Right.
sound. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The label, everything. I believe it's Tribe is the label, rare label. I first heard of that through the song "Alcoholic Vibes" by Lord Sear, which is not a very popular record. It's just him playing that in a loop and half rapping, half talking. And I just thought it was so dope. And then not too long after, probably from one of these break tapes, I heard the original. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And the drums are so hard. It's so open. It's an absolute banger. Next record, Sunrise Limited, Until My Love Returns.
Yes, I caught that one on eBay. Also cheap. I think I looked at it, and I don't know, something stood out to me. I think the cover, the studio on the back of it, something stood out, and it was like $5.99. And I was like, let me see. Again, it worked out for me.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, you've also mentioned ones where you maybe slept on things, but if you play this game long enough, if you bat 300, you go to the Hall of Fame in baseball, right? So you play the game over to you're right on a lot, you miss some, it works out over time. Next record, Doris, You Never Come Closer.
Found that in London, England at an outdoor market. And
Really?
the guy selling it said, "Oh, there's a funky track on here." Again, I didn't hear it. I just took his advice. He said, "Oh, there's a funky track." And all right, I'll check it out. In fact, I just played it on my radio show last weekend.
It's a mesmerizing record. I love that record. I believe it's Swedish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go back to your traveling in England, right? So you went to an outdoor, let's say a market, and there's dealers there. I used to do that. I lived in England for a year, and I used to also go to markets, and they had great records and different records than I found in the US and Canada. As in, you'd start to see library records, different pressings. And as we discussed before, the UK, they have a strong culture, a strong point of view on DJing. What was your experience there buying records?
It was great. It's actually where I met Jazzman Gerald. I met him at Camden Market. He had a stall,
Yeah.
and I remember going through the records. I went through what he had, and there was nothing I needed, nothing I was interested in. And then my friend that I was at the market with was like, at another stall. So he came up. He said, "Did you get anything?" And I said, "Nah, this guy doesn't have anything." And he heard me.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of offended him by saying that. He heard me. He said, "Oh, well, what are you looking for?" And I rattled off 10 titles. And he said, "Okay, is that it? Any more?" I said, "You have all those?" He said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Oh, you do?" I said, "I didn't see them in here." He said, "They're at home." I said, "Well, I need to go to your home." He said, "Okay, you can come tomorrow." And
Uh-huh.
I went over there and we became friends and we traded records for years. That's how I actually got a bulk of my rare stuff because he would say there might be some American corny record, but he would say, "We can't get this in London. I will take as many as you can send me." Well, I could go out and find them all day for 50 cents or a dollar. And he's given me like 30 pounds trade on each one. So I'm getting this massive trade credit on these shitty records.
Yeah.
And then in turn, he has great, rare, and amazing records that I'm getting from him.
So you had that plug. I could see it in my mind because I do remember his stall, Jazzman, and there were other record dealers and other markets where they had really good shit. Now, Jazzman, if I recall correctly, great dealer, collector prices. That's fine. That's the business. That's cool.
Right.
But you're like someone like you who's used to finding shit in the wild. It's not going to be worth it with exchange rates and everything, right? So him
Exactly.
taking you to your house, to his house makes sense. And I did find that kind of story happened to me as well. I met, it's really wild. I've been trying to track down this guy. You let me know if this rings a bell. And there is a group called the Creators out of London.
Giuliano.
Yeah, that's right.
Giuliano.
Giuliano Creator, right? And I don't know how I got connected with him or if I met him somewhere at a hip hop show and I started going to his house. And I was a student. I was in university. I had very little money. I could barely eat, right? Let's just put it like that. I didn't have a lot of money. And he's like, "Don't worry about it, man. It's not about that. Let's listen to records." And he'd be playing me insane shit. Like, I mean, that's when I really heard a lot about library records, a lot of rare, just European stuff. He's taking me like a tour throughout Europe. And he's telling me that this legendary producer from the US came and bought this from him. He dealt to a lot of Americans. And
Right.
this dude blew my mind. And I always thought, this is the nicest guy in the world because I didn't have money for shit for him. I just kept going because we just got along. And I always wondered, where is this guy? I'd love to find him again.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in years. I know he had a site a while back.
Yeah, a good site. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah. 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 I remember his website. Yeah. That's probably how I found him, through the website. Um, he was, yeah, let's say that website was one of the early websites that helped me learn a lot. Right. And that was one of them. And
Yeah, I
that guy was,
connected with him in '95 when I went to the UK. I
yeah.
met up with him and we did some trading.
Yeah. He knew his shit. He had a
Yeah,
good
for
ear.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. Next record, Mark III, Marvin Whoremonger.
Yes, out of Vegas, extremely rare funk album. I think I've seen it 3 times.
Wow.
Out of the three, one of them is my copy.
I've only heard it online. It sounds great. It's extremely unusual cover art. Even the name is crazy. You're the only person I've ever met who's had it. And I mean, for some reason, I thought it's European. I thought it was a library record of some sort, but it's definitely a weird one. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, private press out of Vegas.
Okay. Okay. I knew you'd be the man to ask. All right. For our final question, I usually ask something more introspective. For you, what do you desire most in this world for this next phase of your life?
What do I desire the most? You know what? I feel like I look at life, right? And I'm always like, what do you need? And I think I sleep in my own bed every night. I have a roof over my head. I have food all the time. I'm like, I live good. I have everything I need. Right. So I'm just like, what else do you need? I'm happy. I mean, I've been life is a roller coaster ride, right? And your emotions can and sometimes will get the best of you. And that's happened to me in the past. I just want to be happy and live my life and really just be about my family. I think as you get older, you realize that nothing means anything. As you get older, what means something? Your family does. Your family and your friends, and that's really about it. So I don't know what I can say. I mean, I want to continue to do what I do because I obviously love doing it. So I guess would be to do more of what I've been doing. And almost what you say is I might be doing more now than I done yet, you know? But I guess that would be it. Just to share music with people, meet people, travel.
I think what you said about what's important to you would resonate to a lot of people at this time in the world. It's not always perfect all the time. So thanks for sharing that and sharing your perspective. I think it gives a long-term perspective. And also for you and what comes next, I do think your greatest success may be what comes next. I feel like the way the world is going and the appreciation for the beat digging culture that you helped to build is going to become more and more popular. So I see nothing but success for you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time, Supreme. Appreciate you.
All right.
Peace. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. Firstly, a huge thank you for checking out the show. This started off as an idea in my mind to see the growth and the support from the beat digging community from around the world has been fantastic. Secondly, if you support what we do here, take a moment and join the 19% of listeners and subscribe on this app. It makes a huge difference. And my promise to you is to grow this show to make it even more of what you love, more guests, more interesting conversation, more beat digging knowledge. We appreciate your support. Peace.